Hello everyone, and welcome to this series of instruction videos. You're all about to start with the final assignment here, which is a wall charger for electric vehicles. I'm going to show you some tips and tricks, which I'll also cover in the lectures, but for those of you who prefer to watch it on video, here they are. And the first episode here is going to be about holistic modeling and also symmetric modeling and how we can work with that in an efficient way. I tend to prefer to work with uh, oversized surfaces and then cut my way into the final shape. And I'll show you a few examples of that and also include how we can work with symmetry along the way. I know you've encountered symmetry in your previous classes here, and it's somewhat similar to what you learned during those. So I'm going to start by just clicking out a very simple CB curve here. Now, the distance between the grid crossings here is 100 millimeters, and I want my wall charger to be, let's say, approximately 30 centimeters in height, and maybe let's make that, yeah, let's make it 30 centimeters in height and maybe 25 or something in width. So I'm going to click out curve here by using new CV curve and just make sure that I end up somewhere around here with my curve. And I just click out for CV point randomly like that. Now I want this charger to be symmetric over this plane right here, the YZ plane. I'm in the top view now, by the way. But clearly it isn't. So I want to adjust this curve so that it becomes symmetric over this plane right here. And I can do so by creating, first of all, create a new layer. Because the symmetry functionality builds on layers in alias. That's very important to understand. You find all the symmetry functionalities within the layer function. So anything you put in a certain layer will be affected by the symmetry settings of that layer. So first of all, I'm going to place this curve in my new layer by assign objects. I'm going to name this layer also to well, let's start with just curves, like so. Now I want to set, if we go out to the perspective view, I want to set this layer to be symmetric around the YZ plane, like that. And if I right click on the layer and go to symmetry plane and then set symmetry plane, I get these symbols down here. So I want to set my symmetry plane to be equal to the YZ plane, and I click on that little black symbol right there. And don't forget to also click set plane down here. So now the symmetry plane is set for this layer. So now we need to assign the objects that I want to be symmetric. So I go pick curve, pick that curve, and I'm going to go to the top view so to make sure you all see what happens when I click symmetric modeling. And clearly these CV points are not symmetrically around this one right now. So if I go to object edit and then symmetric modeling and watch what happens with these two CV points. Now they're all arranged in a symmetrical way. And that's really, really nice, because if I then start manipulating this curve, moving a CV, for instance, you'll notice that the same thing happens on the other side. So this is really, really nice, and ensures you that you will have no problems over the symmetry line here, and that the geometry will be perfectly symmetric. So that's the first symmetry condition that you can set. We're gonna continue by adding another curve right here. You'll soon see what we need these curves for. But let's just add another curve. So a new CV curve, and I just click this one out rather randomly as well. I want it to end somewhere, end somewhere in this area. So I click now like that. So it's now 15 and 30. No, that's not good. We need to extend it slightly. Can always scale and work with these later. Let's make it a little taller, and also bring this CV down slightly to make it accelerate towards the end. That's usually nice to have. Yeah, so let's stop there. Now this curve does not cross our symmetry plane. So I can't work with the symmetry settings similar to what I did with this curve, but I can, of course, mirror it, and I'm going to do that because I want to work with the entire shape here to see what it looks like. So I'm going to pick the curve and then go Edit, Duplicate, and Mirror, and go to the Options box and make sure I mirror across the correct plane, which is the YZ plane chosen here. So I go, and I have a mirrored image of this curve right here. Now, if I start manipulating this curve, you would expect this one to tag along, wouldn't you? But it doesn't. So a bit of a warning flag here. If I change this one does not follow. So make sure anything you do on this side, you will have to do on this side as well, if you have a curve which is not set as symmetric around the plane here. Okay, so Control Z on that one. So we have now 3 curves. I'm going to make a 4th one as well, down at the bottom. So new CV curve, and I just click it out, something like this. I'm going to set this also to symmetry around the YZ plane. And in order to do so, I need to make sure this curve is in the correct layer, which is my curves layer. So assign objects, just to make sure. It was there already, but just to make sure. And then we go to Object, Edit, and Symmetric Modeling. And now it's perfectly symmetric around the YZ plane. So what do we have here now? If I go to the perspective view once more, we can see what we got. I got 4 curves, and they're intersecting one another. And this is the basic idea of what we call holistic modeling, or working with oversized surfaces. So the idea here is to create surfaces using these curves and make them intersect one another. I can then round off the corners, for instance, here and here and here and here and so on, using fillet tool, surface fillet tool, or even a round tool would work if I trim those surfaces. But I make them oversized to begin with to capture the basic shape that I want. Okay, so let's just do that. But I need some more curves. So I'm gonna pick all these curves and turn off the CV points. Let's say I'm happy here with these curves. Note that all the curves with a symmetry setting have this little symbol of a yellow plane marking out the symmetry plane. We can get rid of that if we want to by erasing or deleting the history of this object. So let's do that. We don't need that symmetry condition anymore. So delete history, yes, and those plane symbols goes away. And I'm going to pick these curves once again and go Control C as for copying, and then Control V as for pasting these, and then go move. So I move these up in the Z direction using my right mouse button, like so. I'm just doing this randomly now, but this approximate the thickness of my wall charger, something like that. And we're going to work with a pretty powerful tool that actually seems simple to begin with. You've actually worked with it already, and it's called the Skin tool. And basically, you can just draw a window around the curves you want a surface round, and it turns out like that. But this surface is completely flat in this direction. You can see that by turning on the CV points like so. So it's a 1 degree surface in this direction. And it shows right here, 1 degree, but it's a 3rd degree in this direction, or the U direction here. Now, what we don't want flat surfaces when we move, so we're gonna change the settings of our skin using skin control here, and we can add something called a crown. You see up here it says crown mode on, so let's turn that on to proportional crowning. Now a little arrow shows up here. I can actually take that arrow and pull the surface out. You see what happens? It added another degree in order to be able to crown this surface. Also, it sets a value here, and you can set a fixed value, let's say 0.05 or something. It looks rather nice. Now it's not flat anymore. And you can continue by using next and pull these open. Now you see the crowning came up the wrong way. So I want that to be crowned out. So if I go crown flip here, it flips to the correct, if this is what I want. And I go next, because I do have the surface here now, and choose these two, and that also had the wrong setting of the crown, so I click crown flip, and finally this one right here, and it actually had the correct position. Let's see what we got here now. This is interesting. So if I turn on the shading for all my surfaces, I now have 4 different surfaces. They're a bit crowned. They are symmetric over the YZ plane, and these two are copies of one another. To be absolutely sure of that, I could first of all hide all my curves, but the surfaces were in there too, so let's not do that. So pick surfaces, and then go layer, new layer, and call that surf, and assign my surfaces to here, and I can then turn off my curves like so, and actually get rid of this one. So I'll delete that surface to be absolutely certain that these two are symmetric. I will make a copy of the actual surface. I pick that one and go edit, duplicate, mirror around the YZ plane, go. And now this is a perfect mirrored image of this surface right here. Let's turn off the sweep points, turn on the shading. So I have four rather nice surfaces. I know they're symmetric and round and pretty and all that, and they're also oversized. And in the next episode, we're going to look into some ways of rounding these corners off. So that's it for now. Thanks for listening.